Hi guys, my name's Amanda. I'm a cruise ship employment specialist. I worked on cruise ships for a decade and then went into cruise ship employment and recruitment services for another 5 years after that. And last year I started my own company called getalifeatsea.com, where now I help adventurers just like you get paid to travel the world. Today we're going to be talking about real and true information when it comes to what are the actual hours that you're going to be working when you're on board a cruise ship. So let's get into it. So number one, this is really, really important to understand. And actually, I used to train this information on board a variety of ships when I was working on board as a crew trainer. There is something called ILO and IMO regulations when it comes to hours of work on board a cruise ship. So the ILO is the International Labor Organization and the IMO is the International Maritime Organization. These two bodies have sort of come together to really lay out very, very firmly what the requirements and regulations and policies and procedures are when it comes to crew hours of work across the board, not just cruise ships, but cargo ships, container ships, anyone working at sea. The hours are the required hours and expected regulations are very, very similar. So it's really something that I would recommend that you look into. You can just Google that information on ILO and IMO. But general summary is the maximum number of hours that any company, shipping company, cruise line, etc., can have a crew member work per 24-hour period, so per day, is a maximum of 14 hours per day. Now, is that the norm? Not usually, no. Typically, most crew members will work on board anywhere on a sea day, typically like 8 to 10 to even 12 hours. That's pretty typical for a sea day. It's pretty rare to get to that 14 hours. The hours of work often as well aren't straight through hours. Most positions you're going to be doing 3 or 4 hour split shifts. So for example, like a youth staff might do like 9 to 10, 12 to 3, and then 7 to 10 or something like that. So often you're doing split shifts with time and breaks in between for you to go and have your meals, for example. That's typical on a sea day. On a port day, who gets time off on a port day? There's a lot of things that come into play. It's somewhat dependent on the position that you have on board. It's somewhat dependent on the department that you're a part of. However, overall, generally speaking, most cruise lines will not require all crew members to be on board on a port day. And that's because the services and amenities that are required are relatively minimal because most of the passengers will be off the ship enjoying the sights. So most departments won't need full crew members on board. So what will happen is your supervisor or manager will schedule you off on a rotational basis to share time off with the rest of your department. So again, for example, like a junior assistant purser that's part of, say, a 15 to 20 person team during a typical cruise. Typical cruises are, 7 to 10 days usually in duration. Maybe during that 7 to 10 days, the ship stops in port 3 to 5 times. I wouldn't say that you're going to get 3 to 5 days off in port as a purser, for example, but you might get a couple of half days off. You might get one full day. But do remember, when I say one full day, I never mean a full 24-hour period off. I mean from when the ship comes in to when the ship sails that night, which is most commonplace. So if you do happen to have that day scheduled off for yourself, your manager's given you a day, you will for sure be working that night because every position on board is a 7-day-a-week position. Although some days you're going to be working a lot less hours than other days. The only kind of exception to this is positions or departments like housekeeping on port days, because housekeeping, for example, often on port days is where the housekeepers will really catch up on a lot of their cleaning work in the cabins because the guests are out. So I would say that department port time is a little bit more limited. But there are positions on board that port time is huge because there are certain departments and certain parts of the ship that are actually required to be closed, completely shut down while in port. And The really cool thing is I'm actually going to be coming out this fall with a Cruise Ship Jobs 101 course, which is going to have multiple video modules and PDFs and just tons of information. But I've decided I'm going to do a whole module on positions on board that have the best port time. And I'm going to really focus on these departments that are required to be completely shut down during port, because these are the individuals, these are the crew members that get some of the best port time in the industry. So if you're interested in getting notified for when that course gets launched, be sure to sign up for my list. To do that, it's really easy. You can take the free Are You Ready for a Life at Sea quiz. 30 seconds or less, you can find out if a life at sea is for you. You can take that at getalifeatsea.com/cruise ship quiz. The link is in my bio here on Periscope, and if you're watching on YouTube, the link will be below as well. And you'll definitely get notified as soon as that course is launched. It's going to be epic. That is just going to be one tiny part of a whole Cruise Ship Jobs 101. Everything you need to know about getting a job on board, best positions with the most port time, specialty rules, resume info. It's going to be the whole shebang. But hopefully you guys have found this information useful. And if you are interested in more info, be sure to follow me if you don't already. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and find me on other platforms as well. I'm on Facebook. I do Facebook Live quite often as well, so check me out there. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Google+, LinkedIn, everywhere. Just search Get a Life at Sea. And I would love it as well if you're really interested in getting started to apply today. I would highly recommend checking out my website at getalifeatsea.com. I've got products and services that will help you on your way to achieving your dream of working on board. So thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.